Okay, so today is the session number 5 of the first semester on Frobenius subalgebra lattice in tensor category. So we already did 4 sessions. The first 2 sessions was about introduction part with slides. And then we did 2 sessions last week where we started the details by hand. So I just wanted to come back a little bit about what's something I said in the slide, because we got something new. So there is a gap, there is a typo, not a typo. Where is it? Yeah. No, not this way, here. So here, so for now, so the application of our result, so we realize that the referee of a journal pointed out that in fact, when you are in the unitary setting, we need, for any intermediate sister algebra in between, we need this inclusion to be an adjointable morphism. We need this inclusion to be, in fact, a morphism in the unitary tensor category of AA bimodule. And we prove that, in fact, for this inclusion to be, so this one, to be adjointable, to be a morphism in the category, this is equivalent to the intermediate to be E-compatible. And so here we need to add the fact that there is a finite number of E-compatible intermediate sister algebra. So for now, it's a work in progress. We are trying to see how we can omit this E-compatible assumption. But I should add here, it should be added E-compatible. Maybe I should write finite number of E-compatible. So the big question is, can we use our non-unitary generalization of Watatani's theorem to omit, to remove this E-compatible assumption? But for now, to be strictly correct, we only proved with the E-compatible assumption. So this recovers something which was known to Watatani, and it was explained in more details in a paper by Ben Gupta. So this result, so this application was already appear in the literature without the E-compatible, with the E-compatible. So whether or not we can remove E-compatible, if we can remove, then we get a new application. Otherwise, we only recover something known. And something here I wanted also to mention is that so this is new. It admits a finite number of Frobenius B subalgebra. But what I realize also is that the goal, the motivation for introducing the rigidity invariance is to provide sublattice of the Frobenius subalgebra poset, because we need a lattice structure to get the finiteness. In the proof of the finiteness, we use some lattice structure. And so the paper is in 2 parts. First part is to get some lattice, and then to use this lattice to get finiteness. And so the rigidity invariance, as it is explained here, permit to provide sublattice of the Frobenius algebra poset, subalgebra poset. But in fact, you can state the result here, all the result here, instead of writing Frobenius B subalgebra lattice, we can state something much more general, saying that then every lattice, every sublattice of the Frobenius subalgebra poset is finite. So you take any lattice. We don't know whether the Frobenius subalgebra poset is finite, but any sublattice is finite. In particular, the Frobenius B subalgebra lattice are finite, but you can consider something much more general. In particular, when you consider C-star algebra, we know that the intermediate C-star algebra are all the intermediate C-star algebra are form always a lattice. So we don't need to focus on rigidity invariance. In this case, as long as we deal with algebra, which are algebra in set theory, we know that the intermediate algebra are always lattice. So it's in particular in this case. So this is a good point to. And also for off algebra, we stated this result, which is new, Frobenius B subalgebra. But in fact, we can also recover something much more easy to understand. But we know that if you take a semi-simple finite-dimensional off algebra over the complex field, then there is a finite number of subalgebra. So that's a consequence of our result. Because the off subalgebra form a lattice, and so we can apply our result by considering sublattice of the poset. And then we get the finiteness of the number of subalgebra. So this recovers something which was already known also. But so the strength of this work, so for now, is to provide a unified setting for non-results which look independent before that. So for example, this kind of result for off algebra. Here we are talking about off algebra without any unitary assumption. So just a general semi-simple finite-dimensional off algebra. And here, C-star algebra. So we have two results in distinct area, and we provided a unified setting to a unified result recovering these two results. So the goal, the main interest of this work, for now, we did not provided new result in the sense we provided new result, we proved a new theorem, but the application we provided do not provide new results. But the main interest is to provide a unified setting of distinct area. So we are very confident that in the future we will be able to provide application in other areas. In fact, our main motivation is to provide application to number theory and algebraic geometry and quantum topology, because in these three areas, the notion of Frobenius algebra appear. Particularly in number theory, algebraic geometry, it will be very interesting to apply our results in this setting and to see whether we can get something new. So let me repeat. For now, the main interest is to provide a unified setting. So it's like a bridge. Okay. So let me continue the details. Okay. So we were definition 216 about the trace. So let X be an object in a monodal category C. Assume that X has left dual and double dual, denoted like that, respectively. The trace of a morphism alpha between X and X double dual, denoted trace of alpha, is defined as this formula, which is an element in this Hom set, illustrated this way. And so I will explain a remark what I said last week. And if the double dual also has a left dual, then you can write the trace by closing a loop on the left instead of on the right, by this way. So now let me write a remark regarding in which case we can interpret this trace as a scalar. In general, this set is not one-dimensional, is not the field, but under some general assumption, this can be, this is really the field. So this is the point of the next remark. Remark 217. So if C is a k-linear category and the unit is linear simple, so if C is k object 1 is linear simple, we just mean that this home space is one-dimensional, so just the field. As for example, in a tensor category, this is an assumption for TensorFlow being a tensor category, but this can hold a much more general setting. Then the element of this home space can be interpreted as scalar. Can be interpreted as scalar. Now, if C is abelian, it's an abelian category, then by Schur's lemma, if the unit is simple, this home space form a division algebra. So we are still in the remark, but we are, it's a kind of second remark. We are not assuming that. We are just providing an example where the unit is linear simple. So in abelian case, the fact that the unit object is simple is not sufficient for that to be one-dimensional. In general, it's form a division algebra. And for this division algebra to be a field, we need the field to be algebraically closed. Consequently, if the field is algebraically closed, and in fact this is the main spot when you need algebraically closed. Sometimes, usually in paper in tensor category theory, it's most of the time it starts by let K be an algebraically closed field. And the main reason why we need algebraically closed is for a simple object to be linear simple. One must, in particular, the unit object must be linear simple. Is the main reason. So this is very important. Okay. So next lemma is about how to generalize the the main property of a trace. So when we call that a trace, so this is a generalization of the notion of trace of two matrices. You have A and B, some matrix is some Mn of C, and you have the trace of A is just the sum is the sum of AII, so this is the sum of the diagonal. And a well-known property of a trace is that the trace of AB is called the trace of BA. So if you multiply two matrices, the trace is independent of the order. Trace of AB equal trace of BA. Okay? And so we generate this notion of trace in monoidal category theory. Generalize that. So how this invariant by order generalize for monoidal category? And this is the point of this next lemma. Let A be two objects in a monoidal category. Catégorie C. Consider two monomorphisms F from A to B and G from B to E doubles dual. So this lemma implicitly assumes that A admits a double dual, then it holds that trace of G compose F equal trace of F double dual compose G. Okay, so maybe I should add the two objects in a monoidal category with a double dual. It will be much more clear to write explicitly what is implicit. So lemma 219. Add that as a double dual. Okay. With double dual. With double dual. So it's implicit, but okay. Let me write it. Assume that A and B have dual and double dual. Or just double dual. If you have a double dual, then implicit have dual. Have double dual. A double dual and B. Okay. So this way. Okay. So we will prove that by picture. This can be proven pictorially. So trace. Oh, what is a picture for that? So we use our definition of trace. So where is it? We have something from X to X double dual. So F double dual composed with G, so which can be written this way. It is something from, so B, G is from A double dual. No. It is here from B to A double dual, and F double dual is from A double dual to B double dual. Okay. So we have that from B to B double dual. Okay. And so we can, the trace is just closing a loop on the right this way. Because X double dual, it's okay, we can do. It is well defined. So we close the loop. So this is that. Okay. Now, so what is the definition of the dual and double dual of a morphism? So if you have a morphism F is dual is this way, and so the double dual is like that. Okay? I don't know if I wrote explicitly what should be the dual of a morphism, but otherwise it's just what I said. Yeah. So the double dual, so you have F, so dual F double dual. So this is F double dual, and then G. Okay. But now you apply the zigzag relation. You may have several zigzags. So where are the zigzags? Here. Oh, wait, I forgot to close the loop. You have to close the loop to get a trace. Let me make more space here. So we need to close the loop. Okay. So what about zigzag? So I can see one zigzag here. So if you remove the zigzag, this is just identity. And is there another zigzag? I guess, yeah. So you replace that by identity. So only one zigzag. We will in this step. So G, F, like that. Okay, so we replace this zigzag by this identity. I'm not mistaken. Yeah. 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 And now you have another zigzag here. So we can replace by identity. So we get a G equal to F G, okay, which is the trace of G compose F. Okay, equal trace of G compose F. Let me maybe write zigzag. What about that? No. This one. Okay. In language. Ah. Lead flag. So apply here. Okay. So we are done. We prove this, how to generalize this property of the trace. Okay. Now we will introduce the notion of pivotal structure, which is a well-known notion in the literature, but also a notion of quasi-pivotal structure. This notation quasi-pivotal is specific to our work. We found the notion of quasi-pivotal in some other area, but it means something different. And it was so definition. Two 19, and you can find this definition in EGNO book. So EGNO book definition 477. And here, right, definition 219. Okay, so a pivotal structure. So this is really fundamental. This is a very fundamental notion in tensor category theory, this notion of pivotal structure. We generalize, in some sense, the notion of linear character of a finite group. Because when you take the tensor category of a finite group, a pivotal structure is nothing but a linear character. Okay. A pivotal structure on a rigid monoidal category C is a natural isomorphism of monoidal functor between, so natural isomorphism between the monoidal functor of the identity functor to the double dual functor. So it's a natural isomorphism of monoidal functor. So these words are very important. To be a natural isomorphism, it needs to be a natural transformation where the collection of morphisms are isomorphism, and to be a natural transformation, it should satisfy really some commuting diagram. And monoidal functor also, it's a property. So if we it can be reformulated as follow. If we want to summarize what should be the monoidal isomorphism of monoidal functor, it should be as follow. So you can just, so it's a collection of isomorphism by x from x to x double star, such that, so the naturality is the first for all morphism f in between x and y, then f is connected to its double dual by this natural isomorphism this way. So this is a naturality. So it's just saying that if you take the double dual, so F is equal to F double dual, in which you put this natural isomorphism, phi inverse, or I don't know where. So it implies that you can simplify. So you have this picture, which is quite complicated. You have some spiral. If you put these two things, you just get that. So it's a way to simplify the pictorial proof. So the pivotal structure make the pictorial proof much more easy by removing this complicated spiral thing. So this is the first axiom. The second definition, the second property is the monoidal. So phi of x tensor y should be equal to phi of x tensor phi of y. This is monoidal, and that's why we generalize the notion of linear character because of this multiplicative property. But in this work, we will use a weaker version of pivotal, a weaker version in which we omit the monoidal structure. And this is what we call the quasi-pivotal structure. Let us define a weaker version without the monoidal structure. So definition. So a quasi-pivotal structure on origin, blah, blah, blah. So the rest is similar, so just remove the, so on a rigid monoidal category. What is a natural isomorphism? Natural isomorphism. By identity functor to the double dual functor, but not a monoidal functor, not of monoidal. So it's a collection. Yeah. Collection. Isomorphism phi x from x to x sub star such that one hold. And this one is this one. Okay. So quasi-pivotal structure. And we will see that in fact, we can get a better version of the property of the trace we proved before, only with the quasi-pivotal structure. We don't need the monoidality to get that. So this is what is the point of the next lemma. So if x equal y, let us define the trace with respect to phi of f to be trace of phi x composed with f. So we will define a trace with respect to a natural isomorphism. In general, we do that with respect to a pivotal structure, but in fact, with respect to a natural isomorphism is enough. We don't need monoidal. Because when you do that, in fact, what we will show is that you can permute inside without putting double dual. Yeah. Trace phi of G compose F is trace phi of F compose G. Because the phi contain the double dual thing. So, lemma 221. So let X and Y be two objects in rigid monoidal category. With quasi-pivotal structure phi. Consider two morphisms F from X to Y and G from Y to X. Then it hold that trace index phi of G compose F equal trace index phi of F compose G. So this is fundamental. Proof. So by some previous lemma, so by lemma 218, so this lemma will apply the lemma with the property of the trace with the double dual. So by lemma 218 and the quasi-pivotal structure, the trace phi of G compose is equal to trace, so G compose F, so from X to X. Trace by definition is like that, Fg. By the previous lemma, you can permute this and this, put this here, but you have to put double dual. So you get trace of F double dual compose phi X compose G, which is equal to, by the natural isomorphism, another interpretation of natural isomorphism I did not write here is that this equals this. So if you this is equivalent to phi Y compose F equal F double dual compose phi X. So you can permute this like that. So this is exactly what we do here. You can move this here, replace X by Y, and you remove the double dual. So exactly by naturality, this is trace of phi Y compose F compose G, which by definition is just trace index phi of F compose G compose F compose G. Because G is from Y to X, so it's from Y to Y. It's okay. Okay, so you see, this is very easy. So usually, this is the literature. This is proved when you assume phi to be a pivotal structure, but in fact, of course, it works for quasi-pivotal structure. Okay. Okay. So now, Next lemma will be about separability. Involve separability. So it will be about the trace of the identity of a Frobenius algebra. Okay. So lemma 222. Let x m delta I epsilon be a Frobenius algebra, then the trace of the identity of x is the composition of the evaluation map of x with the coevaluation map of x, which is epsilon compose m compose delta compose I, which is, as we will see in the proof, you can see directly. So this is like that, which is like that. Okay. And in the separable case, which means that separable case, remember, it means that this is lambda identity. In the separable case, where m compose delta is lambda x, identity of x for some constant lambda, and assuming that the unit object is linear simple, the unit object 1 is linear simple, let you define another scalar, denote the scalar defined by epsilon compose I. So this scalar, this is the unit is linear simple, so the Hom space from 1 to 1 is one-dimensional, is a scalar. So epsilon compose I is really a scalar. So we have two scalars, one coming from separability and one coming from the fact that one is linear simple. So this is important. These assumptions are really required to get this kind of scalar. Linear separable case, you get this scalar, and linear simple, one is linear simple, you get this scalar. This one, so as a scalar. Okay, then we have the trace of identity of x is nothing but the product of these two scalars. So this is so the proof is immediate. I will make the proof after the pause. By picture, just need to write it. 5, 10. Okay. Okay. So the proof of this statement will be immediate by picture. So what is the trace of identity of x? So remember, x is equal, so in our setting, x is equal to its double dual. So recall that x equal x star equal x double star in our setting. So what is the trace of x, identity of x? So identity of x is a morphism from x to x. So it's a morphism from x to x double star. So this is just like that. And then you apply the trace. So this is just that. Okay. We are allowed to do that because x is equal to its double dual. So if I want to write this more, so we have identity of x. Here you have x, here you have x double dual, which is equal to x. And then you do that, which is nothing but that. Which is exactly that. So this is what we called self-dual. How should I say it? Self-dual. Lemma. And then by separability, you apply the separability here. Separability. You get this is equal to lambda x that, and then you add the unit and co-unit, and by definition, lambda x, mu x. Okay. As I said, this is that. So this is immediate. So we have these two constants, two fundamental constants of the Frobenius algebra, this lambda x, mu x, in the separable case. Okay. Separable case where the unit is linear simple. Okay. So now we will. Okay. We will prove a lemma in the connected case. In fact, this lemma is a generalization of a well-known trick and well-known property of irreducible subfactor planar algebra. So when you have you will see. But if you don't know planar algebra, then you need to care about that. But for people who know planar algebra, they may recognize something. So using the notation from lemma 222, so the previous lemma, let alpha be a morphism from x to x and assume the connectedness condition. Then so let me first write the formula and then the picture. So mu x is a scalar multiple. M compose alpha tensor identity of x compose delta is trace of alpha identity of x. Which is depicted as follow below. So the left-hand side is just, so you have a constant multiple, and then alpha tensor identity, so alpha identity, and then multiplication, co-multiplication. Okay. This is the left-hand side. And the right-hand side is trace of alpha identity. So you see here, yeah, how we can deal with yeah. So this is a trick which is used for irreducible subfactor algebra when you consider an element in the two-box space, something like that. But anyway, proof here is graphical calculus, graphical proof. Okay, so first, consider this diagram. So we will consider this, but we will put the unit or co-unit, in fact, the unit here. And now you apply the connectedness. We know that by connectedness, the home space between 1 and x is one-dimensional. So by connectedness, connected, we know that the home space, so this is a morphism between 1 and x, and we know that home C1x is one-dimensional, so it's equal to a constant multiple, the generator of this one-dimensional space, so which is the unit morphism. So you have that. Now, if you apply, consider the trace of alpha. So alpha is from x to x. So again, x is equal to its double dual. So you can write, so wait, yeah, alpha x double dual, tac, which is equal to that by what we call the self-dual again. Self-dual self-dual lemma. Okay, and this is equal to so you just take this part. You consider this part. Here. And so you apply this equality to this part, you get the following. So it is equal to Cx like that, which is Cx mu x. Okay, so you find, so this is the first step. The trace of alpha is Cx mu x. Okay, now we have, so thus we have Cx mu x equal the trace of alpha. Okay, next. We apply, remember, a lemma with a weird picture. strange picture by playing lemma 213. So let me come back. Lemma 213. Yeah, you remember this weird picture. So if you have that, it is equal to something like that. So you can in some sense, you can a little. You want to put alpha out. This is our goal. We want to put alpha out. We want to make a trace of alpha. So the first step to put alpha out is this lemma. It's almost, so it's the first step to put it out. By applying this lemma, along with the previous equality, with the preceding equalities, we obtain. Okay. So mu x. So you have that. We start from that. So this is, now we want to prove it is equal to trace of alpha identity. So we know by lemma, by the lemma, for this equality, we know that this is this way, mu x okay. This is equal to, now we know, what do we know? Here, you apply this here again. So this is equal to, so let me write dots, same dots. So this is equal to what? Cx like that. And I forgot, yeah, the other multiplicative constant. So mu x, which was already there, Cx, which by the unit axiom is just mu x Cx identity. So this is a unit axiom here. Unit axiom. So this is trace of alpha identity of x, which is what we wanted to show. Okay. 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 So now, now we can start some serious stuff. The next proposition will be the baby example of a theorem due to Muger about two categories, etc., but about algebra object. So what this is about? Yeah, how to make a Frobenius algebra, how to make example of Frobenius algebra. In fact, in Muger theorem, we may be able to have time to state today. It will be an equivalence. Every Frobenius algebra object will be of this form, a form of an object times a tensor is dual or something like that. But this baby example proposition which can be proved very quickly just by a picture. And in fact, Muger also proved by picture, but because it's in the two category setting, it's a little bit more involved. But the idea is strictly the same. So let Y be an object with left dual Y star and double dual. So double dual Y double star in a monoidal category. Assume that Y double star is equal to 1. Then, so Y is equal to its double dual. Then the object X to be Y tensor Y star can be equipped with a structure of Frobenius algebra. So that's very nice. Can be equipped with a structure of Frobenius algebra. And in fact, we will prove that by picture. But you will see the picture is the proof is a good exercise to deal with the pictorial proof. We can check every axiom of a Frobenius algebra very easily by picture using this object. So equipped with a structure of Frobenius algebra, so we need to define what is a multiplication to multiplication unit co-unit. So defined by multiplication M equal identity of Y tensor evaluation map of Y, not of X, but of Y. Tensor identity of Y star. And let me draw directly the picture, which is yeah, so here, okay. So so this is this way. So we need something like that. So wait, do I write this here or not? I guess it's better to write all the formula and then to write all the picture. So there's a little confusion. So you have M like that, delta like that, identity of Y tensor co-evaluation map of Y star. The unit is just co-evaluation of Y, and the co-unit is evaluation of Y star, as depicted below. So M, the picture of the multiplication is usually this one, from X tensor X to X. So we know X is Y tensor Y star. So you have Y tensor Y star, Y tensor Y star. And we want to reach Y tensor Y star. And what we are doing is just what is written in the formula. Let me check the formula. So identity of Y, identity of Y star here, and in the middle, just evaluation map of Y. Okay. And you see, this is really from Y tensor Y star, tensor Y tensor Y star, to y tensor y star. So from x tensor x to x. uh, uh, yeah, something like that. So, okay. So this is okay. The delta. So if you want to put it again here, clarity. This is like that. Identity. Okay. Now delta is u like that. X, X, X. And this is the same idea, in fact, reversed. So identity, identity, co-evaluation. And I realize that they are missing something in the, we are missing something in delta. So y star. So we are missing, there's a typo again. Here should be tensor identity of y star. I'm not mistaken. So let me check. Yeah, y star, y star, y star. Okay. So that's okay. So yeah, in fact, I wrote it here. It was written, but we wrote it in here. Okay, so it is equal to the little typo identity of y tensor co-ev y star tensor identity of y star. For the definition. Proposition 224 delta equal identity y star. Okay, then the unit is usually like that, from 1 to x. So this is from 1 to x, so 1, x is y, y star, just like that. Remember that this is mean 1. You got nothing. So this is something from 1 to y tensor y star, so it's okay. And same for the co-unit. So basically, it's like that. So this is like y star, and is a co-evaluation, no, the evaluation map. So be careful, it's not of y, but of y star. Remember that y double star equal to y. So that's why this is important. This assumption is important because then here, otherwise you need to put double star. But because double star equal to y, you can write this way. Otherwise, in general, you have to put double star here. Be careful. Okay. Okay, and finally, it's even under some general assumption, it's also connected. Moreover, if C is K-linear category, is a K-linear category. Moreover, and y is linear simple, then X is connected. Proof. So you will see uh, all other properties graphically. So what is the point of that? We can verify all other properties graphically. Wait. The same apply. So why other? All properties graphically. Maybe there is no other here. Oof. Other is not other. Yes. So we can verify all properties. In fact, it's not a property, it's assumption of a Frobenius algebra. All assumptions. Assumptions graphically. Okay. And we will focus on the Frobenius condition and the unit condition. No, what we Frobenius co-associative and unit. And the same apply for co-associative and co-unit. Okay. So what about Frobenius? So it's a good exercise to do. So the Frobenius condition. So you start from that, and we want to show it's equal to like that. We just write the definition graphically, and you will get everything. So this, so you have to glue to take every piece. So this piece is this piece, and this piece is like that. So you just need to glue the thing. So this is like that. So you have something like that, and then something. Wait. So what should we glue here? We have together this. So we need two. This and this. Aha. Wait. So this and this. So this and this. So let me just write the picture, and I will like that. And then that should be there. Okay. This is like that. And then you put the identity everywhere else. You need identity, 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 identity. Okay. Okay. Then this is equal to. So you can move. Everything is topological. You can move this here. This is the same. So this is like that, like that, like that. Okay. And then you can move again. You get like that, like that. And this is like that. See, in fact, this equality is more or less straightforward when you reformulate. You are just the fact that you can move this part, you can move this here, and yeah, this is immediate. So maybe here we explicitly use the fact that we are in a we use the Maclaurin strictness theorem to avoid some associativity, isomorphism or something like that when we want to do. But yeah, in the strict, it should be okay this way. But my point is maybe it's not about strict, but if you really want to do this is equal to that, when you reformulate in terms of you can say, okay, this is one tensor identity, and then you have evaluation, co-evaluation, identity, evaluation, identity, etc. So you have to, this is equal to identity, evaluation, one, co-evaluation, identity. So there is a little exercise maybe to exercise to check the details here. But basically, when you do graphical calculus, this kind of manipulation work. So you don't need to care much about that. Okay, so now what about associativity? So you start from that. You write the definition. So you have so this, and then okay. So we write here. Oh, one, two. It should be like that. Wait, what did okay, so let me write this way. You want to move here, but here, take only, okay, so I need something bigger. So this, I need this kind of space. Okay. You move there. And then you put identity. Identity. So this is like that. So let me redraw something cleaner. Okay. This is again, so the same kind of trick. This is exactly the same as that, which is exactly the same as that, which is, so again, pictorially, this is straightforward. This is trivial. This is visually, this is immediate. There is nothing to prove, in fact. It's just trivial. And finally, unit axiom. This is, so definition. What do you have here? So something like that. And then the unit is just the, you close here. So you apply the zigzag relation. So zigzag. This is just that. Sorry. Like that. So y star, which is equal to x. Okay. So if you want to prove this by formula, it may be not at all intuitive. Maybe this is really the big success of graphical calculus. Everything become very clear. And that's very important. So of course the same applies for co-associativity and co-unitality. So co-unitality. Okay. So what? So now we have to prove the last line of the proposition. Finally. So if the category C is a K-linear category, then the home space between 1 and x equal the home space between 1, which is equal to that by definition, is isomorphic. 2, the home space between x and between 1 and 1, sorry, y and 1, by zigzag relation through a zigzag relation. So what does it mean here? You have from 1 to x, any morphism from 1 to x here is of the form so from 1 to x, so no, not like that. So just like that. F from 1, so we put nothing, to x, which is f in from y tensor y star. Okay. And then you do, it's isomorphic too. So what do? You do like that and like that. So this is an isomorphism. So when you do that, so this space, the space where the elements are pictured like that, you get an isomorphism there by doing that. So you apply this, and you get an isomorphism. Why it's an isomorphism? Because you can come back. And why coming back is really, this is, in fact, it's identity because it's a zigzag. When you see a zigzag, so it's just that. So you really have a comeback, which is identity. So by zigzag, this is identity. So, okay. So maybe because it's a class, maybe I will have to write this here. So then you go there. You come back there, which is okay. Zigzag relation. Okay, so is isomorphic to that through this operation. And is one-dimensional by assumption. By assumption that Y is linear simple. If Y is linear simple, so Y linear simple mean this one is one dimension, but is isomorphic to that. So that is one dimensional, but that is that. And so what is the definition of connected? Connected means this is one dimensional. So as long as C is k-linear, and you need k-linear to make argument with the dimension of a vector space, one dimensional. This is linear simple, so this is one dimensional. So this is one dimensional because it's isomorphic. So this is one dimensional because it's equal. So X is connected. It's one dimensional if Y is linear simple, meaning that X is connected, which is what we wanted to show under this assumption. Moreover, if C is k-linear category and Y is linear simple, then X is connected. Okay. So, okay. So let me write the sentence regarding Muger. So proposition, we have no time to write the statement, Muger statement, but just a preliminary. Proposition 224. So the previous proposition extend to two categories as follow, using a similar pictorial approach. So it's for two categories, but in fact the proof is essentially the same. So in Muger, wait. So the paper call from subfactor to category and topology 1. So I will just write 2003, and it is almost time. So I just write lemma 3, 4. So position 224 before extend. So this one extend to two categories as follow, using a similar pictorial approach that also incorporates a zigzag relation. So there is a zigzag relation here, and one here also. That also incorporates a zigzag relation. And so tomorrow we will state this Muger result without proof, but the idea that the proof is essentially the same as what we said before. This is just a little bit more technical, but the idea is the same. So tomorrow we will start with that. Next, so I should mention here that there will be no class next week and next week because I will be in a parental leave. I will get a baby. My wife will deliver a baby very soon. So I will have 2 weeks of parental leave. So next week and next week, there will be no class. So the class will restart. So tomorrow there will be a class, unless there is some urgency. And the next class will be so 1 week, 2 weeks. So in April something. Okay. So see you tomorrow. Okay.